Throughout the years, people have always had a sweet tooth, and candy companies have always tried to capitalize on that craving. There have been many different kinds on the market, and some have been around for a long time. However, there are some that people loved and yet they have disappeared. In this video, we will take a closer look at some of those and remember the forgotten candies. Hershey's has become known for their range of creamy chocolate bars, which is why fans were surprised when they released Taste-tations. These creamy hard candies came in a variety of flavors like mint, raspberry, caramel, and butterscotch, but they didn't last long on the shelves. The Rhetty bar was named after a baseball player named Reggie Jackson who played for the New York Yankees. This bar was a tasty combination of peanut butter and roasted peanuts encased in milk chocolate. However, the Rhetty bar was only on the market from 1978 to 1981. Wonka donuts were candies sold by Nestle under the Willy Wonka Candy Company brand. These candies were little donut-shaped pieces of chocolate covered in sprinkles with a truffle-like inside. They were widely promoted ahead of the release of the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but were soon discontinued due to low sales. In the early 1980s, Mars had the Summit Bar. They were a chocolatey peanut wafer cookie bar. It's been reported that consumers loved the taste of these, but the chocolate really never stayed on them because they quickly melted. This bar was discontinued in 1983. Remember Butterfinger BBs? These little chocolate balls were filled with crunchy Butterfinger and were first released in 1992. Nestle used The Simpsons to help market this new candy, and it became a huge success. Despite their popularity, they were discontinued in 2006. The Marathon Bar was introduced by the Mars Company in 1983. They marketed the bar as a candy you can't eat quickly because the caramel was so chewy. The bright red packaging was extra long and it had a ruler marking listed on it so you would know exactly how much you were getting. Many people took the Marathon Bar challenge, but they were discontinued in 1981. If you enjoyed these, then you may be happy to know that Cadbury has a version of this bar called the Curly Whirly. The original Hershey's Kisses were released back in 1907 and are still very popular today. But the Hershey Company wasn't satisfied with just plain Kisses. In 2005, they released the Hershey's Kissables. These were miniature Hershey's Kisses that were coated with a colorful candy-coated shell. This newer candy was not met with the same popularity and they were discontinued 4 years later. Willy Wonka's Nerds were such a success that the company tried to keep the momentum going by producing dweebs in the early 1990s. These plump, soft, sweet treats were pretty much the same as Nerds, except they came in 3 flavor compartments rather than just 2. This difference wasn't enough to make them popular, and they were discontinued after a couple of years. In 2022, they made the return on the market in Europe. In 2003, the Hershey Company introduced the Hershey's S'mores Candy Bar. It was based on the s'mores treats that people love to make around campfires. This may have seemed like a great idea, but apparently most people loved making them and not buying them. In 2012, they were discontinued. In 2007, Hershey released the Elvis Peanut Butter and Banana Cream Reese's Cups to honor the king of rock and roll. One of Elvis's favorite sandwiches had peanut butter and banana, but he may have been the only person who would have loved this candy. They were discontinued the next year in 2008. If you're a fan of Almond Joy or Mounds, then you would have loved a Coconut Grove bar made by the Curtis Candy Company. This tasty candy bar had a creamy coconut center that was covered in dark chocolate. It was invented somewhere around 1949 and it was on the market for less than 10 years. Peter Paul's Powerhouse Bar was another option on the market if you enjoyed candy like Snickers. It contained peanuts, fudge, and caramel and was sure to give you that extra quick power that you needed. Production began in the late 1960s and this bar disappeared when Peter Paul was purchased by Hershey in the late 1980s. Hershey's Bar None consisted of 2 wafers filled with chocolate cream that was covered in milk chocolate and crushed peanuts. These bars used to be really popular until they decided to add caramel, which seemed to make the sales drop. Hershey's Bar None was discontinued in 1997, but there is a version of it that is still made by Iconic Candy. PB Max launched around 1990 from the Mars Candy Company. They were essentially a square-shaped whole grain cookie topped with peanut butter and covered in milk chocolate. In total, they made around $50 million in sales, but sadly they were discontinued just 4 years after their release. Nestle Alpine White was a candy bar that consisted of creamy white chocolate and almonds. This delicious combination came out in the mid-1980s but has since been discontinued. Perhaps one day this bar may make a comeback. The 7-Up candy bar was a 1930s candy made by the Pearson Candy Company. It was a chocolate bar that had 7 unique chambers of different fillings. Some of those changed over the years, but they usually had caramel, butterscotch, fudge, Brazil nut, cherry cream, coconut, and orange jelly. It was sold for quite a while, but it was discontinued forever in 1979. There really hasn't been anything like it ever since. Swoops were first released in 2003. They were chocolate discs which sort of stuck to the roof of your mouth and then melted. They even had one with peanut butter swirls on it. Their time on the market was short and they were discontinued 3 years later. Bonkers candy came in a range of both fruity and chocolate flavors. Their commercials were pretty crazy, but they soon became popular with kids and adults. If you were around in the 80s, then you definitely remember going bonkers over this candy. They have been discontinued, but there are constant rumors of their return. The winner of the all-time weirdest candy bar name has to be the Chicken Dinner. No, this one didn't contain any chicken, but it came out in 1924 and lasted on the market until 1962. It was actually a chocolate-filled bar with nuts. The odd name and advertising made it extremely popular with children. One might think that this bar was nutritious, but that can certainly be debated. It was really just meant to compete with bars like Milky Way. Space Dust candy was invented in the 1950s by a chemist who worked for General Foods. He made it by accident while working on an instant soft drink. The candy was a fine dust and it was actually released in 1978. It was discontinued just 5 years later. This is essentially the exact same thing as Pop Rocks, which I'm sure that many people have had. Jumbo Nerds was another candy from Willy Wonka. They were trying to capitalize on the popularity of Nerds, which are neon-colored candies in the shape of pebbles. Jumbo Nerds were the exact same as the original, but they came in a larger version. Unfortunately, these were not as popular and they have been discontinued. Rally was a candy bar that was introduced by the Hershey Company sometime in the 1970s. It was a chocolate-covered bar with a nougat center that was coated in caramel and rolled in peanuts. This candy bar has been discontinued and then brought back on numerous occasions. The milkshake candy bar was created during the 1920s. It got its name from the ingredients which gave it a similar taste to the chocolate malt milkshake. They were incredibly popular for decades, but they were discontinued in the 1980s due to a business acquisition. No matter what, candy companies will constantly be evolving in order to create that next sensation. We all have a sweet tooth and they're hoping to make some money off of it. I hope you enjoyed this sweet walk down Candy Lane as we remembered some of the forgotten candies. What was your favorite candy? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching.